There it is. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You are loud there, my friend. That's awesome. We've got Sean Raz, Conspiracy Man, live on the Kevin Holly Show. I cannot wait to talk to you, my friend. How you been, man?
I've been doing good. Yourself?
Great. Really good. Yeah, absolutely. You're on with me and Jay. We're going to turn Chuck and Pops down here for a minute so that we can get a clear... there we go.
How you doing, Sean? I just started looking at some of the stuff you have on Facebook. A lot of really good, interesting points, man. Especially one that has raised my attention is the contrails.
Yes, the famous contrail, chemtrail, geoengineering, solar radiation management argument.
Right.
How about it, man?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors to this that you have to look at as you start to try to research this. I grew up in New Jersey, right outside Philadelphia, right in between Newark Airport, Philadelphia International, New York LaGuardia, D.C. I was right in the flight path of all those, plus in the flight path of McGuire Air Force Base, Lakehurst Naval Air Station, a bunch of other military bases all throughout Virginia and Pennsylvania. So it's not like I don't have an idea of what goes on in the air. You know, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I live near an airport and I see them all the time. It's a big different thing that you're looking at when you talk about it that way. So one of the biggest factors I find with the chemtrail argument, with the chemtrail discussion, is that the word itself scares people away. That's why you'll hear people say solar radiation management or geoengineering. Those are words that scientists are using. Those are words that they are discussing using to stop the global warming epidemic, whether you believe in that or not.
Right
So
on.
it's directly tied in with global warming. It's an entire political agenda, basically.
Oh, by far. Well,
And
not
I'm
even
sure-
basically. It is a complete and total political agenda, not basically.
Okay, so is this on a national level in the United States, federal? This is something that's going on around the entire world, then?
Well, let's, before we get into where it's going on and how it's going on, let's get into what it is we're trying to discuss here.
Yeah, like...
What we're talking about is a lot of people look up and they'll go, you know, I remember being a kid. All right, I'm 40 years old. I remember being a kid and laying on the grass when I was about 6, 7, 8 years old, and my friends and I would pick out planes in the sky, and we would have races. And we would see which one of our planes, which was leaving the short little line behind it, would beat, would win the race.
Right.
And the lines were short. They never were more than 3 or 4 plane lengths behind the airplane. I never saw these lines that went horizon to horizon, spread out into these weird clouds we're seeing nowadays. So that's my basis on my belief of it. Now, I was a Navy SEAL cadet when I was 13 to 18 years old. I trained as an airman when I was there, which means I trained with aircraft. I learned about the workings of aircraft. I went into the Army when I was 23 years old.
Nice.
I didn't really do any aircraft training there, but I was involved in a lot of different things in the military, is the point I'm trying to make. I was an EMT for 10 years, a volunteer EMT in the town I lived in New Jersey. So, when people look at me and they want to call me a crazy conspiracy guy, I want to make sure people understand that, I've had some experiences when I discussed these things. I wanted to be a pilot. My wife actually has 800 hours flight time.
Nice.
So when she discusses these things, she was a Civil Air Patrol when she was a young teenager.
Sean, I got to tell you.
That,
I got to tell you real quick, I was a member of the Civil Air Patrol. I lived for about 8 months in Washington State, right in Gig Harbor, right out of Seattle. I was also a member of Civil Air Patrol. It only lasted about eight or 9 months, but kudos to her. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And all I'm trying to do is just try to put there's a lot of people out there, and I don't know, Kevin, who listens to your show, but I know you're a Shannon Burke fan. I know that's where you found me at,
Yeah.
and how we became communicating with each other. So I just want people to understand that I'm not a crazy guy.
No,
I
no.
wasn't always a conspiracy guy. I was a right wing, let's go nuke all of Iraq and Afghanistan type of guy up until 6, 7 years ago.
Right on.
And then I finally questioned a lot more things. Back to the chemtrails. I starburst a lot, and I have been pre-partying. I've got a little Sambuca and a couple of Cigar Cities down. So,
yeah, we have a couple of beers in the studio as well.
We're
Sean,
partaking.
I really wanted to start off by just apologizing to you because when I first did start communicating with you, I didn't know who you were, and I called you a bad name. I called you dumb or something like that. And I went back the next morning and I went through my Twitter and my Facebook and whatnot, and I clicked on your name and your profile and everything else, and I realized, oh man, what am I thinking? This is actually a pretty cool dude, and so I want to apologize to you face to face. Well, not face to face, but on the phone here. You didn't deserve that, and I'm sorry for hijacking your tweet that day.
Listen, Kevin, I appreciate the apology, but it's never needed, dude. When you do what I do, I get. I'm sure you. I don't know if you're in the Burke Brigade on Facebook, which I'm no longer in, but I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of heat, and I'm used to it. I've learned to accept it and realize that people will want to hate you when you're giving information that goes against what they believe.
Yeah, or even just questioning it. It's polarizing, It really is.
Yeah, it definitely is. But see, a lot of the times, though, Kevin, with these conspiracies, and I did the same thing. That's why I mentioned, I used to be the non-conspiracy guy because I hated guys like me. In 2002, in 2003, in 2004, I hated those stupid fucking 9/11 truthers. Oh, and by the way, I'm not putting in the swear jar tonight, so just so you all know.
Write them down, Pops.
He's in.
I hated these 9/11 truthers, dude. I hated them. They were like the scum of the earth to me. And for me to be one now and have to sit back and remember how I talked about them and now believing all those things that I thought they were idiots for believing. So that's the part people don't gather when they hear me ranting on Shannon's show or on my show or on any other show I might be on, even yours. You hear me ranting, but you don't realize that I believed all these things at one time.
Yeah.
I know both sides of it because I actually believe the other side. I read all the propaganda books. I have. If you came to my house, I'll bet you I have, at the minimum, 10 to 15 hardback books about 9/11. Yeah. I probably got about 30 to 40 magazines about it. And these are what I collected when I was collecting them because I hated Al-Qaeda, not because I believed it was an inside job.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was really against even listening or giving anybody a chance to talk about how it may have been a conspiracy or whatnot. But, and I don't really want to get into the 9/11 stuff right now with you, but...
We get a lot of heat with the Muslims as it is. So.
Yeah, no, but
we'll stir that out some more.
Yeah. But looking at building, Building 7 that came down, but more importantly for me, is the only thing that I've even really given a chance at this point in my life, and I'm 40 as well, is and I was just YouTubing this after looking at your stuff on social media, is the Pentagon, the lack of video footage, and the cruise missile that looks like an American Airlines missile and things like that. It's just like, it doesn't really add up. Why are they hiding it? I don't understand it, so I'm starting to listen more is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? I'm starting to listen a little bit more, open my mind a little bit. I hate to even think that there would be any kind of conspiracy with that. But, man, it's a fucked up world we live in, and all these...
and that's the problem. Kevin, that's the problem. And I understand what you're saying. See, that is the biggest problem with trying to rationalize these things, trying to accept that maybe it's against what your belief is, because you don't want to think that the government that you support, the people that you take pride in believing they're there for you, they're trying to make things right for you. You believe that. You don't want to think that they could do these things. But the problem is, forget 9/11. We can go through history, throughout history of these things happening. Just operation after operation after operation. Operation Gladio, which happened in Italy, was CIA backed. Look at what happened in Afghanistan in the 80s, which is exactly what we're seeing right now in Syria. They play these games. They make them continue to happen. And you don't want to rationalize that it could be happening, and it's very hard. I remember This is a story I like to tell. When I first got into conspiracies, it was right after my youngest son was born. It was 2008, and I started. I got angry because I didn't want a black man as our president. I'll be straight up honest. It was racism that drove me into all this. I was so angry that this black guy became president, and John McCain didn't make it. How the hell did John McCain lose to this guy? You know, I couldn't believe it. So I got angry, and I started researching things, and I found all these different things, which led me to Alex Jones. You know, that's usually where most people start in conspiracies, is Alex Jones. So let me do this video called the Obama Deception. And I started watching this video, and it's a 2-hour documentary. And I watched this documentary probably 20 times. I had a legal pad, a full-size yellow legal pad, filled from front to back with questions and just things that were grabbing me as I was watching this. My wife thought I was losing my mind at the time. And she just was staring at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm laying in bed with a laptop on my lap at 2:30 in the morning with a legal pad in my lap, writing down all these questions. And that's what began it for me. And as I moved through it, I learned, you know, hey, Alex Jones, I kind of moved away from him now because he's supporting Trump. That just doesn't add up. How does the biggest conspiracy guy support Donald Trump? Yeah. So that's a whole other direction we can go. Anyway, like I said, I starburst a lot. I've got some Sambuca and Cigar City, so you can take control of it if you need to.
No, you know, we talked about how we're going to, you know, take in your rants and whatnot tonight, and we just want to pick your brain and let you go, you know, if that's cool with you. I've got a list of questions to ask you about. I kind of want to go back just real quick because we were talking about it earlier. Back to the chemtrails and the contrails, just to explain to people the difference. Now, aren't the contrails like water vapor and aerosol, but the chemtrails have some kind of different chemical compound so it doesn't evaporate? And they were talking about, you know, dimming the planet so that people don't get melanoma cancer and stop the effects of global warming and things like that. What are your real thoughts on that? I mean, do you believe what the ICA is saying, or do you think that they're just pumping a bunch of bullshit out there and they have their own agenda?
Well, keep in mind, I've believed in chemtrails since about 2009, 2010. I've studied them. I've looked into them. We've always called it an aerosol. And I don't know, you said you listened to my show from the 22nd where I did my big rant about the new study that came out. Is that the one you heard where I was talking about the chemtrails and the aerosols?
Exactly, yeah. And it's funny, it's kind of ironic that, you know, aerosol in the 60s and 70s, you know, put, you know, holes in the ozone and whatnot, but now they're using aerosol to supposedly fix it. It's weird, you know, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think the point I'm trying to make is the chemtrail people, the people that have been watching these things for about 10 years now, since they've really gotten to the level that we're seeing, we've always used the term aerosol. Now, if you go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the chemtrail argument, everybody always says it's nothing but water, you know, it's nothing but water and ice. That's all it is. It's nothing else. And then all of a sudden we're hearing this aerosol being introduced, which, again, is a terminology that the geoengineering chemtrail watchers have used for a long time, the aerosol word. Mm-hmm. Are they adding it to the fuel? See, and this is where it gets really hard, because we're hypothesizing on how this could happen, how they might be doing this. There's patents out there. There's fuel additive patents. There's patents for engine parts, different things that connect this all together. Right. So, are they adding it to the fuel? Are they injecting it post fuel into the engine at the combustion cell? See, we don't know. That's the part we don't know.
That's why I'm confused about it. You know, like they don't seem to explain anything, even when people ask. You know, they're not coming clean. You know what I mean?
Well, the government's never going to come clean. The government and the companies that are doing it are never going to come clean. It's very easy. If you type in, one of your guys sitting there right now, if you guys are at a computer, just go to Google. Type in, let's type in geoengineering companies or weather modification companies. One of those two search terminologies. You will come up with a list of companies that sell weather modification that will promise your wedding will be perfectly clear. Or maybe you want a snowy wedding. They'll give you snow on your wedding.